Today I'm trying my first oil painting. I've only done acrylic in the past, and I wanted to challenge myself and see how different oil painting is. The first time I realized that this was going to be a lot different than acrylic is when I was mixing the colors. Even just squeezing it out of the tube, it's a lot thicker and the colors were harder to mix, so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but first thing I noticed when I was painting it was how far a little bit of paint went. So this was kind of interesting. The texture kind of feels like you're painting with a melted crayon. You put a little bit on the brush and it just keeps going, and I like it in comparison to acrylic because before, when I would do large areas of one color, it would take 3 or 4 coats, but it covers all of the canvas right away. So I'm going through, I just did a little brush just to get used to it for this part. And my theme for this painting is going to be like a cool, abstract kind of space, or I don't even know, just like an abstract doodle, trippy Route 66. So I wanted to do a cool Route 66 themed with some desert aspects, some cool kind of space aspects. I wanted to make it really interesting and try and use my abstract doodle style with the oil painting and see how it turns out. I'm just starting off doing the few roads. I'm going to do a few to kind of split the painting in different sections. I like doing that because then I can make small little landscapes or different details within these sections, and it almost splits it up into smaller paintings within it. So I'm doing that, and it's a good way to get used to how the oil paint is actually covering the canvas. I didn't want to do a detailed or intricate design when I was first learning the paints, and I was also surprised because the oil paints smell like oil. I know that seems obvious, but it's very strong, and when you pour out the paint too, there's actual oil in it, which maybe I was just super unaware of that. I thought it was more like oil based in it, which I guess it is, but yeah, it's really interesting texture, and I'm kind of learning how far it spreads and realize that I mixed a lot of this gray together, which is nice because the oil paints are more expensive, but with the amount it covers on the canvas, it's not really that bad when you think about how many paintings you can do with just a small set. So now I wanted to add a little bit of detail into this little motel building. I want to make it look like an old motel that would be in a ghost town built out of wood from like the 1800s. So I'm doing that. I want it to kind of look like wood panels in it. I'll go back and do some more and do a little bit of color blending to make it look like an older building. And then I'm doing these little highway or interstate signs. I have one that looks like the classic one that just tells you what highway you're on, and then I have another one up that's going to be the green one. I don't think I'm going to write any words in the painting at all, so with these signs I have to be a little bit creative on what I want to add. Thought that orange would be a good color for it. I'm probably going to do some type of pink or red background for the sky in this part. So I wanted something that would go well with it, but won't clash with it. Because it's going to be orange and that little ground part is yellow, I am not going to have orange in the background there, just because I think there'd be too many bright colors that are too similar to it. So we'll come back and do that. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a little bit of like rock in the brown here as a bit of a border. I don't want to have only black border around the roads. I want to have some type of natural looking, some just to split it up. And then I'm going through and doing a little bit of lining within these areas just to give it a little bit more detail and make the little mountain range inside these colors stand out more. Now I'm adding some purples into this little kind of skyline with that house upside down and the planet. I realized that I'm going to have to change the ring on this planet because it's purple and I want it to stick out more, so I might do a little bit of blending. This is the nice part about oil paint, is that I can do that. Even though I did it the day before, I can add another color on it and it'll blend nicely. I can brighten it up or add a completely different color. So I'm filling in some more details in this little car camper van thing and going and doing the same thing with a rock layer at the base of this little mountain range. I like using this brown. I also like that now I'm learning more about the oil paints. I can have some areas that are thicker, some that are not as thick, and both of them cover the canvas. I find with acrylic sometimes if it's not as thick, it looks like you can see the canvas through it and it doesn't give a good feel, so I kind of end up doing it more thick in other areas, and the only way that I do the definition then is just with lining. But with this oil paint, it's kind of nice that I can use the thickness of the paint to create that difference within it. And now I'm going over with orange in this area. I'll probably have to do something within it because orange and pink beside each other, it looks good, but I think it's too bright and I want to have a darker color kind of contrast that. And I'm going to the clown and adding a little bit of orange as well. I think it would be good there, and I'll probably have a darker color as well in around the clown. So just doing that, and now I'm changing the color, at least some of the base color of this jellyfish sea creature thing. I think that the purple is a little bit too similar to that dark blue. Maybe if I used a lighter blue it would have worked, but just going over with some of a brighter red, and I'll probably do that after and kind of throughout it to give it cool texture. So I'll use this area as kind of a texture learning area and see how that works. But for now, just going through and making sure all those areas that aren't fully painted over are, as I'm putting on that red kind of base layer. It's not fully dry yet, so I'll need a few more layers of it, but it's a good start just to cover up some of that purple and get a layer of the red within it. I like how it's looking so far. I do think that I have to be patient and let it dry just to make sure that I can put in those fun little abstract doodle details within it. I think I need to have more themed elements that show that Route 66 theme to the painting. So it'll be a good learning opportunity to see how I can implement those with these new paints and use that patience and make sure that I'm being a little bit more strategic on which parts I'm painting and which parts I'm letting dry. Thought that yellow would be a good base color for this little skyline around the buildings. Because I'm doing blue and I got purple close to it on the other side of the road, I thought yellow would be a good color for that, especially because I don't have that yellow near it. I'm not going to go all the way down to the camper because I don't want it to wash away the color of the camper, so I'm doing pink there. And I'll probably put in another color within the pink. I do think the pink and green looks really good together, so that's a nice color to fill that space. I want to use more pink throughout it, probably in the bottom right corner, but I want to make sure it's a smaller amount because I don't want too much. I find if one color kind of dominates the background images, unless it's planned out that way, it doesn't give the eye enough to look at, and I find sometimes those are the paintings that I think look a little bit more boring that I do. So I'm just trying to be strategic. The nice thing about oil paintings, like I said, is I can brighten it up or make it darker even a day, 2 days later, just because it takes that long to dry. So taking a long time to dry is good and bad, and this is just part of learning. I'm happy that I decided to do a larger painting for the first oil painting because it's a little bit more forgiving in some of the smaller details, and it gives me more time to learn with this and be able to do the details I want without it being washed away, or if I'm not patient enough, it blends funny and I don't get to have that level of detail within the aspects that I wanted. So now I'm adding a eye to this little sea creature thing. I want to have just one eye and make it white, but as I've talked about before, I thought it was going to be dry enough, but it is not. So I'm just kind of doing a base layer, make it brighter, and then go in the next few days and make sure it's completely white. But that mixed color that I got from that was actually perfect to brighten up the ring in this planet. So it's kind of still a purple color, but I think it actually looks really good because it's different than the color that's in the background and it's nice and bright. I'm also doing the same thing with this little cactus. I wanted to make it like a cool kind of monster creature thing. And it also kind of just brightened up the area, but I'm gonna have to wait quite a while to make sure it's fully white. So I'll go in and do that as well, but now I kind of have that space figured out in there. And then I'm just kind of blending a bunch of colors in this little like halo over the clown. So we'll go back and keep working on that. What I'll probably end up doing is hanging this one up to dry for a few days before I work on it again. That's what I like about scheduling out these videos, is I can do that and still be able to do the next parts of this painting in 2 days and upload them at the same frequency. So that'll be nice, but I'll probably end up doing that and start another acrylic project that's in my theme of the nostalgia theme, because I'm doing a series on that. But anyways, I'm going through and adding more green to that little section by that one kind of rock desert mountain area. And I'm adding in each one of these little lines or little tracks on the roller coaster, I'm adding colors. I'm doing the same for this ladder. I always like to have a little kind of color palette in my paintings that has a bunch of different colors that I was using. So I did that, and now I'm going through and adding some more blue to these buildings. I'm adding some abstract looking windows. Thought it would look cool to have different blues in there. I was gonna do gray, but I didn't want gray that close to the road. I want that to be the majority of the gray in the painting. Maybe I'll have some smaller details with it, but it won't be that close to the road. I'm doing more blending in this sky, and I'll probably do a lot more, but I'm just doing a little bit just to get some colors in there. And now I'm filling in this part. This part's a little bit tricky because I am really being careful what colors I choose, just so it doesn't look weird with the colors beside it, especially that I'm coloring in this little area. So doing that, just doing a few smaller sections just to make sure it all looks good. And yeah, just going through adding these colors where I see it. And like I said, I'll probably have this painting drying for a while before I add some of those abstract details that are in the sections and in the little areas that I see where the paint dry. That's where I usually add more of that doodle style. But with it being an oil painting, I have to give it that time so I can make the little details as clear as possible so they stand out. I'm gonna try and keep this part under 20 minutes as well. I'll probably end up having 4 or 5 or 6 parts for this painting. So like I said in the last ones, let me know if you like this duration of video or if you like the longer ones. I'll probably end up doing a time lapse for the entire project as well, but I'm just breaking them up into smaller videos so I can talk a little bit more about the specific things I'm doing in each phase and not repeat myself throughout it. Sometimes with the longer videos, I find that I'm repeating myself because I'm doing similar things in different phases of the painting. So let me know, I'd love to hear what you think about it. And yeah, now I'm just going in, doing the same kind of thing I've been doing on this day. I think by this day it was around day 6. I'm getting mixed up with how many days I've been painting this one. And just adding more detail and layering where I can, where it's dry enough. So I'll try to do a lot of that, but after it dries. Now I'm just filling in the parts that need colors that I already have planned out, and making sure there's no color clashing throughout it. So far, I'm really happy with how this is looking. I do need to add a lot more themed details and aspects to make sure that the theme of Route 66 is obvious, but I do like how it's turning out, and I've been enjoying using the oil paint. I think I'm finally understanding how it spreads and blends a little bit more, so this will be a fun one to see how it turns out. Thank you for watching this part, and I'll probably upload the next part in a day or two.